University of California here at NAMM 2024 with John Belfay. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. Very well done. There'll be a short quiz later.
I appreciate that. John, you're representing Kurzweil here today, and Kurzweil was founded by the genius inventor, physicist, general purpose, really smart guy, Ray Kurzweil, along with Stevie Wonder. And that's where the story starts. How long back does that go, and bring us up to where we are today?
Our first NAMM with our first product was 1983 with that legendary product, the K250, which was born from a conversation between Ray and Stevie.
I was here when that happened,
yeah.
So I saw them both here.
That would talk about the organic beginning of something fantastic. Just two people interested in a common goal, and a solution was created.
And so, when it originally was produced, it's now produced in Korea, is that correct?
Our manufacturing is in Korea and China, but everything is all designed still in Boston as it was way back in the very early days.
So there is a Kurzweil design team where it originally started?
Correct, still remains, and in fact, most of our guys are here floating around somewhere at the show, all the brains behind every one of these boxes.
Wow, okay, well let's talk. I have some Kurzweil products. I have the 2600, and I'm noticing that this is the 2700, and so how does this connect to the legacy products of Kurzweil, which are very, very well respected and have appeared on many, many great recordings, Pink Floyd, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, when I hear the word connect, to me what I think about as a keyboardist, especially like all of us, we own toys for years and years. One of the things we always hated was you invest in a product, you spend years building sounds and sets and so forth, and then the latest, greatest other keyboard comes out and you're like, oh, do I have to give up everything I've done? And sometimes it's worth upgrading, and sometimes, with most of our modern keyboards like the 2700, the beauty of it is you could take sounds that were built for your K2600 and still load it into this beast.
Because the VAST system would be in here.
Right, we've worked very hard to keep things backwards compatible that way. It's not perfect, but there's no other company on the planet even attempting to maintain the legacy of soundware, all the stuff that you as a user has built that we have. You can literally go back to 1992 sounds and load them in 2024.
So the patches are all usable here.
Yes.
So I have a huge, and this is not just about me, but just for example, I have a huge library of samples also for that instrument.
Yep.
Are those also usable?
100%. In fact, that stuff will translate the best because you're dealing with audio files. So that loads in, it maps across the keyboard the same, and you're up and running. But there's a ton of new features, correct? New
I was about to ask.
All that other stuff. That's where there's some programming where you probably want to, like, why would you bring all that old stuff into something new if you're not going to spin it differently, right?
Before you get into all the new stuff, I just want to appreciate an old thing that's still here, and that's this. This is actually a really expressive element of this keyboard.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're able. I used to hold down one part, and
correct.
That's still available.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
Same. It operates as one big long controller, or you can divide it into three smaller controllers. The obvious uses are pitch bend, but that's kind of boring. Everybody does that. You can control the tempo of the sequence. You can control filters. You can trigger notes off of it. Excellent for harp glissandos, for example. The applications are pretty limitless.
Fantastic. Okay, what else? How has this been brought up to today?
Mostly in the sample set, I would say, starting there. If you look, comparing to what you're talking about, the original K2 era in the 90s, we had about 128 megabytes of user memory in there, right? Now we're in the orders of gigabytes, of course, like everyone else. So that allows us to dedicate far more samples, raw samples, unedited, unlooped samples, especially for things like the pianos and so forth that are so paramount. So when you're playing the pianos in here, you're getting, from attack to decay, the true length of every particular note, all 88 keys up and down. So right off the bat, you're just getting better quality of content in the system playing back. VAST has also grown. You talked about VAST and the synthesis. If it wasn't already crazy before where you could have 32 independent layers where every layer was a different type of synthesis, we've now taken that and allowed you to build your own algorithms, and you can chain them all, not just in parallel, but now everything can be done in series as well. So you could literally have the output of one layer into another layer, into another layer, into another layer, into another layer, and still have 32 layers of depths. So the programming is mind-boggling, if you wish it to be. If you don't like getting that deep, we've taken a lot of the programming out and put a lot of those immediate controls, the things that we like to have, on the front panel out of the box. So you don't have to go in and say, well, where's the control for the filter? We stuck it on slider 1 for you for every single patch on the box and so forth, just to make it a little more immediate. Some other stuff that's brand new that just didn't exist back in the day, built-in audio interface. So you've got beautiful DACs on the input, USB output, don't need any other hardware to connect to your DAW. Two-way traffic going back and forth, makes it great for live as well as for recording. Drum pads, something kind of new for us. We don't often have on our Pro keyboards, but something we threw in here. But more than just pads, because there's a million companies selling you pads, much like every other controller on here, you can tell them what you want them to do. Drums is the easy thing. You could trigger chords, sequences, you can tap out filter patterns. Pretty much whatever you want to be able to interact with in the board can be stuck on a button, right? Whether it's this or a key on the keyboard or a knob, it doesn't make a difference to the system. It'll let you customize it to your taste, whatever your needs are. Same thing goes for a plethora of pedals on the back panel. It's a controller dream.
Back in the day, when the Kurzweil first came out, I think, what was that, the K250, I think?
That was the one we were talking about, yep, 1982.
Yeah, so that set the world standard in terms of, like, that's the most incredible piano sound I've ever heard. But so you were number one, you were the world standard, and then everybody was saying, we have to do that, so Yamaha, everybody has, Korg, everybody has done that. What sets this apart in the market today, and who do you identify as your competitors?
I mean, I would say everybody's a competitor these days. The piano sample market has exploded. I mean, you can get decent sounds from just about any manufacturer that makes it, whether it's a plug-in or hardware. The key difference I find to this day is there's more to a sound, whether it's piano or anything else, than just you playing into it. It's what you get back from it. How does it respond? What's the latency like? What's the response to the keyboard? Are the sounds designed around the performance of the keyboard to interact like a real instrument would? Or is it just one keybed, one map that applies to every sound? We take it a little more custom. So not only is every patch custom tooled for the response of the keybed, we also recognize we're not going to make everybody happy. There's no way. You can literally on this board go in and you can adjust the tuning and velocity for every note individually to your taste. If you were so crazy you wanted to go in and just drill down to the depths and customize every patch to respond to the way you play, not the way I play or anybody else. So it's, again, customization is key, personalization.
So I knew a professor who had a 2600, and he loved it because he could take it anywhere to a hotel room or whatever, and he was composing and he produced records on it. So it had its own sequencer,
yep.
A workstation. Is this a workstation with a, oh, there you go.
Dedicated button, takes you right into the 16-track sequencer, software mixer, and you can do everything you could have done on the original K26 series or 25s, built in here just with a nice color graphic interface now.
Does it have good DAW interface as well?
Oh, absolutely. Like I was saying, it's got the audio interface that allows you to send both USB and audio back and forth on one cable. And of course, with all the controls, one thing that people often forget about, even though this is a workstation synth, it's got all these great sounds, all these controls apply to the outside world as well. So personally, one of the favorite things I like to do, I'm a Logic user, is I've got templates built that don't necessarily use a single sound out of the board sometimes. Sometimes all it is using all these controls to get at what I want Logic to do for me, so I'm free from the mouse, right? And I don't need to buy a dedicated control surface or anything else because I've got it more than I could ask for already built into the keyboard, right? So it's just 2 for 1.
Could you tell us about the Keybed?
The Keybed is a Fatar TP40. Really popular action. We use it in a lot of our keyboards. What makes this particularly popular is that, in fact, talking to the last group of guys about it with, is stating the obvious, this is not an acoustic piano. If you're designing a keybed for an acoustic piano, it would be a little bit different, right? Because your function is play piano, one job in the world. But here you've got to play piano, electric piano, clavinet, strings, drums. You have to have a keybed that's versatile enough for that. And for us, that means not only having the great response pressing down, is how does it respond coming back? That's part of the feedback thing I was talking about. So we've designed this Keybed to have a little bit quicker response so that you are able to play things like clavinet parts, hi-hat parts, whatever it might be, with a lot more facility. Even though it's a weighted keyboard, it lends itself to being able to be triggered in a much more friendly and rapid manner than a traditional weighted keyboard.
What about the aftertouch element?
Aftertouch is mono aftertouch. It's fantastic, completely customizable. You can go in and map that like any other controller, again, to any feature on the board. Obvious are swells, that's a given, but you could push into the Keybed and have it change the tempo of the sequence if you wish. I mean, you can really decide how do I want this instrument to respond to my style.
Is this keyboard robustly built for, could you take it on the road?
Oh yes. In fact, if you were here about 2 hours earlier, we've got one up on the stage yonder, and the keyboard stand failed, and it plummeted to the floor, and within 17 seconds it was powered back up and working without a hitch.
Okay,
So,
all right.
built like a tank, that's something we're pretty renowned for.
Who supports this keyboard in terms of if you ever need repair or service on it?
One more time, the beginning.
If you ever need repair or service on this keyboard, who supports it?
Our distributor in the U.S., I assume we're talking about, U.S. market, is American Music and Sound, and they've got a fabulous network of service centers throughout the country that'll take care of whatever your needs are.
By the way, since I've got you here, is there parts and service available for Kurzweil legacy products still?
Yes, as much as we can do. Obviously, over decades, because we've been making products for 40 years almost, certain things just become unavailable just because we can't get the parts needed to make those parts. So over time, things do fade out. Eventually, it's unavoidable. But
people tend to love their Kurzweils. But I would say one of the great distinctive elements of this is the ribbon, and thank you so much for keeping that.
Well, we're happy to oblige. We enjoy it as well. That's usually how we build them. We build them to please ourselves first. So,
how are the sounds designed, or is that all in Boston?
Yes, 100%. All those sounds are all designed by our team in Boston. Yeah, we got a crack shot team of soundware engineers that spend a lot of time processing samples, editing effects, and mapping and tuning. And
someone wants more information about Kurzweil, where can they go?
Number one source is www.kurzweil.com.
Jean Belfay.
Good memory. You passed the test.
Jean Belfay of Kurzweil here at NAMM 2024. It's KUCR, University of California.